So most of us are asking, which source do I trust? Where do I go for reliable information? Who's telling the truth? And I understand that instinct. But I want to suggest that's not actually the most important question right now. The question I keep coming back to is, what are you navigating with? Not what information are you using? What instrument are you using? Welcome to The Pivot, where we explore the shifts that open new possibilities for how we see, act, and navigate the world. Right now, so much is changing, faster than we can make sense of. It's easy to feel unmoored, caught between an unraveling past and a future that's still, well, taking shape. But there are those who can already see what's emerging, beyond the noise, beyond the confusion. In each episode, I sit down with visionaries, thinkers, practitioners, and pioneers who are not just imagining the future, but actually living it. They're sensing what's next and mapping the way forward. So if you're wondering how to navigate this shifting landscape, how to stay grounded, adapt, and even thrive, you're in the right place. This is not about quick fixes or the 7 steps to be more effective. This is about asking the right questions of yourself, of each other, of life, learning how to make sense of this changing terrain and how to move in it. You don't have to figure it out alone. I've got you covered. This is The Pivot. Welcome. Hi. I was at the grocery store recently and I noticed something. Things that were always there were just gone. And prices I tracked last week were very different this week. And I'm standing there thinking, well, what is it I'm actually looking at right now? Is this temporary? Is this normal? I genuinely don't know. And meanwhile, the news is saying all kinds of stuff. The market's up. Apparently, we're doing fine. I do the food shopping in our house. I'm the cook. And I'm driving further now to find better prices because they're moving up and down week to week. That's not abstract. That's Tuesday morning. And last week, I ran a workshop with a group of senior people. And what they were carrying into that room wasn't the usual organizational complexity. Their shipments were frozen in the Strait of Hormuz. They've had to relocate people because of the war. Communications are down with parts of their teams, and they've been through a reorg. They've had to cut costs, laid people off, and now they're trying to figure out how to be competitive with AI. All of this happening simultaneously, not one after the other, layered. And then they go home and watch the news, and that tells them that some version of what's happening that doesn't match what they're living, what they're experiencing. That gap between what the information environment is telling you and what your actual experience is telling you, that gap is real. It's not your imagination, and it's not your anxiety. Something's genuinely broken down in the signal. So most of us are asking, which source do I trust? Where do I go for reliable information? Who's telling the truth? And I understand that instinct. But I want to suggest that's not actually the most important question right now. The question I keep coming back to is, what are you navigating with? Not what information are you using? What instrument are you using? Because here's what I've noticed in myself, in the leaders I work with, and the people I talk to. Most of us are navigating with a lens we inherited, a way of making sense that was built for a world far more stable, far more coherent, more legible than the one we're actually in. And we're running that lens on data that doesn't fit, and then wondering why everything feels so hard to read, to understand, to make sense of. That's not a data problem. That's a navigation problem. I was outside this morning walking, and there were birds, a whole chorus of them. and I stopped just to take them in. And at that same moment, I was aware of my clients whose shipments were frozen. I was aware of the war. I was aware of those leaders I sat with last week trying to make real decisions with incomplete and contradictory information. None of that went away. But here's what I want to describe because I think it matters. I wasn't being run by it. It was all present, the birds and the complexity and the uncertainty. And I was in contact with all of it. Not dissociating, not pushing anything away, not pretending the hard things aren't hard. Something was available in that moment that isn't available when I'm scrolling, when I'm trying to track the news, when I'm in a reactive mode trying to figure out what's true. And I've been sitting with what that actually is, because it's not a technique. It's not a practice I did that morning that produced a result. It's more like I was navigating from a different place. And the world did look different from there, or at least how I experienced it. And I want to be honest about something here because the way this kind of work gets talked about often puts people off, and rightly so. This is not about positive thinking. It's not about retreating from the complexity of the world into some inner peace that keeps you comfortable. That is not what I'm pointing at. What I've been learning, and I mean genuinely still learning, it's ongoing, this is not a solved problem for me, is that there's a difference between trying to change how I engage with the world and actually dropping into how I already do. Let me give you an example. I noticed this most clearly in my meditation practice. There's a version of me where I'm coming at myself with an agenda. I'm going to be more peaceful. I'm going to stop reacting. I'm going to fix this thing about how I show up. And that version, even though it's well-intentioned, is still a kind of a fight, right? Still running on the same engine. And then there's a different version where I'm not trying to change anything. I'm just present with what's actually here, truly here. And something shifts, not because I made it shift, but because I stopped fighting it. That's the distinction. And it sounds simple, I know, but it's not simple. What it means in practice, in the boardroom, in the grocery store, in the conversation with your partner when you're both tired and the world feels heavy, is that you catch yourself mid-lens. You notice, I'm reading this situation through something, through an assumption, through a framework, a story I already have, and you pause there. Just that pause. And then you drop into something more direct. What am I actually sensing right now beyond what I'm supposed to be sensing? What's the feel? What's the texture of this moment? Not just the content of it. What are people in this room actually carrying? What's behind their words? Not just what they're saying. And then, and this is the part that's the hardest to describe, you stop asking what should happen according to the plan, and you start asking, what does the situation itself, right here, right now, seem to be calling for? Calling from me, for me. That's what I was doing with the birds this morning. And that's what those leaders need when the news doesn't match their shipping manifest. And here's the thing. You don't have to wait until you've built a solid meditation practice to feel what I'm describing. You can try it right now, wherever you're listening to this, right here, right now. Notice what's racing through your operating system. Whatever you've been trying to solve or figure out today, the thing running in the background. Just notice that. You don't have to stop it. Just see it. Then take a breath. Now shift your focus. If you've been staring at the screen, look out a window. If you've been locked, focused into one particular place in the corner, go wide angle, take in the whole space, or something outside of that. Give your attention somewhere else for just a moment. Then come back. That's it. 30 seconds. And if you felt even a slight shift, a small loosening, a little more space, that's what I'm talking about. That's the instrument. It was there the whole time. Now, here's why this matters to me practically. I have a coaching client this afternoon, and the version of me that spent the morning being run by the noise, tracking the contradictions, managing my own anxiety about the state of the world, that version shows up to that coaching session as a partial person. Some of me is there. Some of me is still back in the noise. The version of me that was present with the birds this morning, that version shows up whole. My client gets more of me, not a better technique, not a smarter question, more actual contact. And then the same with my wife, the same with my friends. The question isn't whether to engage the complexity of the world. Of course we engage. The question is, where are you engaging it from? And what I'm finding, slowly, imperfectly, with a lot of backsliding from time to time, is that when I'm navigating from that more grounded place, the outer world, it doesn't transform in front of my eyes, but I'm different in it. I make different choices. I ask different questions. I'm less reactive and more responsive. And the people around me can feel that. And maybe that does start to change things, eh? That's not an abstraction. That's what practice is for. The world is genuinely incoherent right now. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But the answer to external incoherence is not better external information. It's a more reliable internal instrument. And that instrument, it's already in you. It's been there all along. It's just that we've been trained to look everywhere else first. So that's what I've been sitting with. I hope some of it served. I hope some of it landed, created an opening for you. If you want to go deeper, the actual practice of developing that internal instrument, it's something I call the Pivot Lab. 6 weeks, small group, starting soon. There'll be details in the show notes. And if this episode found you at the right moment, if something in here names something that you've been living and experiencing, reach out directly to me. I read everything. I'll respond. That conversation matters. So until next time, this is Dave Schoof at The Pivot. Go well. Thank you for being here and for staying with what's unfolding. If this conversation opens something for you, I hope you'll carry it forward. And if someone comes to mind who might benefit, trust that and pass it along. If you'd like to continue the exploration, there's a link in the show notes to the Pivot Commons, a free space where these conversations can be explored more directly with others. A subscription a review, a follow are always welcome. It's important because it helps others find their way here to this work. Until next time, keep listening, keep feeling, keep exploring, and keep finding your way.